Welcome back to Razmafzar TV. Hi, Bede. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Thank you very much. Good to have you back. How is life in Australia, Bede, at the moment?
It's been very wet for the last week or two. We've suddenly got the sun back today. It was a very, very pleasant thing. It's what? It's not that cold. Well, it's not cold for you guys. It's 18 degrees at the moment, which outside it's about 13, I think. But to us, that's cold.
Well, in Germany, this is not cold. Yeah, I understand.
I watch people from Europe and North America and that talking about the weather, and I'm going, oh my God, how could you go out in that weather?
That's true. Very funny. It's always a question of perspectives, right?
Oh, yeah. What you're used to.
Exactly. Okay, today we are going to talk about Central Asian arms and armor, and these are the magnificent collection of State Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg. First of all, I would like to thank all our colleagues in Museum of St. Petersburg, very professional colleagues. So we're going to discuss about them, and I'm going to share something and see what we can do about them.
Well, this is really good.
Yeah, these are really... Oh, what did I do? Just a second, please, Bede. There is something which went wrong in sharing. Okay. Okay. Let me see if you can see that. Can you see that, Bede?
Yeah, perfectly.
Perfect. Okay. So, Bede, please, we are going to talk about all of them in detail, but just to have a very short look, these are these type of weapons we are going to discuss today. Aren't they beautiful?
Yeah, this is showing a really high standard was kept up for a long time in Central Asia. I mean, this is the kind of mosaic of turquoise and some of the shapes of the weapons and everything are fairly distinctive, and the way they're decorated too is fairly distinctive, which shows just how long traditions of fine quality arms and armor in Central Asia persisted, because right into the 19th century they were still making excellent weapons. I mean, really beautiful weapons.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And here we go, and we're going to start with these ones, and these are really, really beautiful. Our colleagues here put that, for example, on top. If you can see my cursor here, this one. So our colleagues call it Shashka, steel, silver. Okay, this one, I'm sorry, this one. Bone, they call it bone, but I'm sure it's walrus ivory, but whatever.
Yeah,
bone.
It did look.
Yeah, and I mean, they always call it bone, but I think they told me they transferred it from Russian. With bone, they mean walrus ivory. That's the reason.
Well, yeah, it's quite possible, because the way languages work, you often get one class of objects in one language is different classes, like several different classes. So it's the bone antler thing in English.
For example, and have you seen there's sometimes an inscription in beautiful poem in Persian, which you can see in khanjar or also in pishqabs daggers, and sometimes on card, which have walrus ivory, and it said دسته خنجر جهانگیر است. It doesn't matter which kind of dagger, they always call it خنجر. اگرچه یک مشت استخوان باشد. The handle of your dagger is going to conquer the world although it is only made of bone. And bone here, although we have sheer mahi, aji sheer mahi,
Oh
walrus
yeah,
ivory, they still
yeah,
call it bone, right? So in Persian, I know as a generic term, they say ostekhan, which means bone, right? But
yeah,
bone, you need to be careful in Persian. That's what I just said. Many guys who don't have historical understanding, they say, oh, they say bone, oh, then it's bone. That's not what they mean historically. Bone was used as a generic term.
yeah, yeah. Well, we use in English, you find people that are not connected with the outdoors, like hunting and things like that, don't differentiate between horns and antlers, whereas
Indeed.
a zoologist would differentiate, a person who lives there would differentiate. Anyone who's tried to carve them would know the difference because one's soft and one's hard.
Could you just
Um,
explain for our viewers, because I'm sure we have many native speakers of English
oh
who
yeah,
do
well
not
this
know the difference?
okay. So generally speaking, what's meant by horn in English is the sheath that grows on the usually two horns growing out of the head of an animal, like a goat or a sheep or a cow or a gazelle. And by antler, we mean the bony growths with multiple tines that grow out of deer heads or elk heads or moose heads when you're getting really big.
Yeah.
There's only one group that fits in between the two, and that lives in America, and that's the pronghorn, which has a two-tined horn on either side, but it's actually horn growing over a bony core. But they just did that to make life difficult for the zoologists and
And
people.
explain not the consistency, which one harder, which one less for our viewers,
Okay,
please.
horn is you can just soften horn by putting it in boiling water or holding it near a mild heat source. You can carve horn. Well, it's the same material as your fingernails. You can polish horn with a fingernail file. You
Mm.
can carve it with a knife. But antler is like bone. It's really dense and hard. When it's dried and cleaned, it's white. Um, you can tell the difference between bone and antler because bone has little holes in it where the blood vessels go through into the interior, whereas antler, when it's growing, has velvet over it, which contains all the blood vessels. And when the animal is ready for mating, which is what antlers are to show off how healthy you are, they rub that velvet off and it's the pure white bony structure. Um, Antler is really a useful material because of its strength. Uh, it's harder to carve, it's harder to polish, so therefore it resists abrasion a lot more. Insects don't eat antlers; they do eat horn. Insects love horn. I've got a knife that has a horn side and a antler side, or I think it might be bone actually. And the horn side has been gnawed on by various insects, whereas the antler side is like it was when it was new. So that's the major difference. Oh, and of course, horn is flexible enough to make bows out of. The Native Americans worked out how to make bows out of long strips of caribou antler, but it was really difficult. I think there may have even been a tradition of doing something like that in northern Siberia because there are 4,000-year-old burials of quite long bows made of little sections of antler that were glued onto a on the belly of a longer bow, and because antler is so hard to compress, um, generally speaking, the antler bows, all of the energy storage was in the sinew back, which was really quite thick. It was rare to make an antler bow that had a core. It was nearly always antler and sinew, and the sinew was as thick as the antler or thicker. So it's I know I often relate things to bow making. It's not a great thing to make bows out of, but if it's the only thing you got, if you're smart enough, which the Native Americans were, you can make it out of that. It's like I think the Inuit made cable-backed composite bows using sections of caribou antler and other things. They'd use driftwood, whatever was available. And the bows were quite effective, but you don't get that high performance. In terms of handles, uh, in England, Europe in general, I think, in the 19th century, making handles of knives out of antler, even kitchen knives and uh, uh, dinner knives and carving knives for carving um, Christmas dinner and whatnot. Antler was a very preferred thing. I know it was popular in Germany. So there's this kind of both materials are used a lot.
Yes.
Um, One is really hard and incompressible. The other one is softer, still hard, but softer and is really good at storing energy in compression.
So
The
let
other
me
thing,
just ask a comprehension question.
yeah,
Stag. What is stag? What does
stags
it?
have or the family that contains all deers, Cervini, something like that. So that's stags, um, all kinds of deer, male deer, um, elk, and moose. Um, all have antlers, and
So
it's that
these
branch.
common, excuse me, Beat, this common usage of stag horn is wrong.
No, no, yeah, staghorn doesn't make sense because it's not a horn, but
Exactly.
it is a real word, and it's totally acceptable to use it in a description of a knife, as
Yes.
long as you don't think it means real horn. But this is exactly what you were saying earlier,
Yes.
where um, conceptions of things don't match up with what their technical
Yes.
identification
Because
is.
from Oxford English Dictionary or American Heritage, staghorn exists in English language, but
Oh yeah,
technically it is okay. I understand what you mean. Exactly. In all languages, we have the same problem.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, it doesn't usually cause a problem, but it's like when you people say I fired a bow, which is only
Yes.
appropriate if you're using a fire arrow. Otherwise, you shoot a bow,
You should
because
have.
shooting bows long before there was anything that had fire in it, which is by which I mean firearms.
Yes.
Whereas
Yes.
to fire a gun is exactly the right way to say it.
Yes. Right.
But most people don't care.
Don't care. Exactly. So this is then they call it. Okay, we are again here. Colored glass, forging, carving, engraving, finishing, niello, embroidery. But then look at this. This comes from Khanate of Kokand, 1860s, and this was acquired 1885 to 1886 from the army of Tsarskoye Selo. These are really, and they all have provenance with documentation. That's what makes these beautiful. You know.
Yeah, they're very high grade. And using these, because you know when they were collected, you know when they moved from collection to collection, you know who gave them, usually as a gift to the Tsar. Sometimes they were acquired during the conquest of places. Um, but um, but you've
Yes.
got a real good background on these. So if you've come across one in a museum or something somewhere and they say, we don't really know what date this is or where it's from, it's ones like this that are your references to help you date where those other ones come from. And also references to show how early a particular type of design was used.
Yes. Yes.
I mean,
Absolutely.
these are quite unusual when you look at it. The second one from the top, if you look at the belt, it's belted on like a safe, an Arab sword, where you have a ring on either side, and the belt comes to the sword and stops. Whereas if you look at the sword at the bottom, which is in a more European style, but
Yes.
that way of having the rings and two straps, that is a very early style going back to the 6th, 7th century. And
Yes.
it's a more common style, frankly.
Yes. Let us go and look at them. And then the other one, which is on top, this one, or this one, sorry.
Yeah, this is the
This
most
is,
unusual.
yeah, this is again, we have here steel, silver, turquoise, mastic, and so on and so on, velvets. This is this
Mm.
redwood, forging, carving. And then again, oh, again, we have this Kokan, this Hanat, as we say in Persian, Central Asia, 1860s to 1870s. This comes from the Winter Palace. This was then
Mm.
given to the Winter Palace. So we have this provenance on both of them. Okay,
Yeah,
let's start.
look at
Look
them.
at
Look at them.
this.
Beautiful. Yeah,
Beautiful.
that I think you're right about that being Walrus ivory. It's got that typical crackle pattern in the
Exactly. Do you
surface.
see that? That crackle pattern? Exactly.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
this is from the Holy Quran. Nasru min Allahi wa fathun qarib. God help us in the upcoming victory from the Quran. Yeah.
Well, that's
Truly.
probably a good thing to have on your sword. I notice it's got a quite elaborate um, tang cover covering the tang of
Yeah. Yeah.
this is really finely worked.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
when you look at the way also, so that's just pure metalwork. This is a metalworking really well done. But then you look at the inlay. This
Yeah.
like mosaic inlay of semi-precious stones is a very popular thing,
Yeah.
even in Bukhara and
Yes.
Samarkand. I mean, it's really nicely done. Whereas the fittings from the belt, see, they're much more three-dimensional.
Yes.
Like the flowers are standing up quite high,
Yes. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they look like cornelian stones in the thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really a different style again. And in fact, the whole mount follows its own style.
Yeah.
And then you've got I'm looking at the fabric of the belt.
Yeah.
See, this is really high grade fabric as well. Then you've got fittings along the belt that match the fittings that attach it to the sword. So
Yeah.
this is somebody, the craftsman has come up with this all in one go. The belt, the scabbard, the sword, they're all one piece. They're all meant to go together. And it really works. I mean, that's really lovely.
Pete, look at here. Is it hinged? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So there's probably a pin through that
Yeah.
so that it can move forward and back. So when you put it on, the belt sits smoothly on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really unusual. I mean, I can't think of very many places where they used hinged fittings to mount the belts like that. Usually you just put rings.
Rings. Yes.
But this obviously, well, again, the person that designed this suite of objects, the scabbard, the belt, and the sword, they've kind of got an overall vision of what they want to do. And so they've come up with designs that maybe nobody else has used. I mean, this might have been common, but it's such a high grade piece that maybe it's not that common at all.
And I think here is siyah qalam, as we say in Persian, yellow. Look at this bead, this part.
Yeah, yeah. There's quite a bit of Niello in Central Asia. I don't know whether it was because just across the Caspian Sea is that other place, the Caucasus. Uh, but yeah, Niello is quite popular. I mean, Niello is not technically very difficult to do, and it
Yeah.
makes a very striking design. But not very many places ever um,
Yeah.
really capitalized on its
Yeah.
usefulness. I
Is
think
this
it really.
handle strap? This one?
Yeah, it's a sword loop.
Yeah.
You can see there's a fitting right at the top of the sword, just behind where the grip
Yeah.
scale is. You can see a little bit of metal poking through.
This one.
And
Let me show it, Pete. Here.
yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And I'm not 100% sure, but one of the little things around at the bottom of the double strap may be a slider, so you can put it on your wrist and slide it up so that it doesn't fall off. I don't think so, but it might be. It's certainly quite sophisticated. It's even the woven pattern of the band is quite elaborate too.
Yeah.
So
And it
it's
has rivets. Look at the rivet heads. One,
quite
two,
too.
three.
Yeah. I'm just thinking. Yeah, that's all. Because they're using brass rivets,
Yeah.
which are quite useful. I mean, it's that would be a solid grip. Probably underneath, like in Persian swords, there would be that
Yeah.
glue-like paste that
Yeah.
molds underneath the grip scale so that they are transmitting, all the shocks go straight through. You don't have hollows underneath it.
Yeah.
Though with the Shimani, Walrus tusks are solid. I mean, they have a little hollow at the base, but they can be really big. I
Just
mean,
for our viewers, on top here it reads Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, in the name of God, the most benevolent, most merciful. So it's also from the Quran, just in case people wonder.
Yeah.
Very beautiful.
Yeah, it's a lot. Is that has it got a date there, or is that just? Oh no, it's words. Some of it's yeah. It's meant to be read with the blade pointing up, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that
So
confusing.
if I hold it the blade
Mhm.
up, and I hold
Yeah,
it vertically, I can't read it. That's why I turn my head to read it all the time. I'm trying to read it, so I just need to turn
yeah,
myself. Yes,
that makes
exactly.
perfect sense.
Yes.
But it's a
Be
lovely thing.
very, very. And now let's look at this khanjar, please, this dagger. And this
Mm.
is also very interesting. Again, walrus ivory. This is 100% walrus ivory. And then you look at this. This was Bukhara, 18th century, and acquired in 1931. It was in this Count Sergei Sheremetev collection, a very important collection in Russia. Look at
Yeah,
this
yeah,
beautiful, beautiful bead. Look at this one.
yeah.
Unbelievable.
See, there's a whole group of things that you only see in Central Asia. One
Yeah,
of them is those little inset bands of little capuchon jewels. The other
yeah,
one is having a scabbard that's partially embossed and partially wrapped in metal wire. That's really unusual outside of Central Asia.
yeah.
And even the fittings, I mean, if this was uh, a Persian jambia or
It,
hanjar,
Khanjar, yes.
uh, it wouldn't have any metal fittings on the handle because it'll be just the ivory because that's all you need. But in Central Asia, they liked the metal fittings. The metal fittings were something that they like to put on everything. I've got a bridle that has similar types of metal fittings on it, not the um, very fine inlay of turquoises, but they're very proud of their metalwork, their decorative metalwork. And
Yeah,
it extended right out into tribal areas. So Turkmen tribes were producing metalwork similar to this as well. I mean, the blade was probably made in a workshop in one of the big cities, like
yeah,
Bukhara or Samarkand or
yeah,
wherever. But that level of decoration, that was widespread in Central Asia in the
yeah.
19th century anyway, probably a couple of centuries earlier.
Gilded silver, right?
Yeah. Yeah, fire gilding, the most dangerous way of putting gold onto silver, mixing it
Yeah.
with mercury. Yeah,
That's why many died. You know?
yeah. Well, this is a classic. Don't try this at home because you'll kill yourself or
I
drive yourself.
remember, Pete, I remember, God bless him, I mean, he's still, he was very sick, so he quit, a jeweler, German jeweler. So I was involved in this project where that Reichsschwert, the coronation sword in Vienna, the
Mhm.
replication of it. So I was involved in that as well for doing research. And then I talked to this jeweler and I just said, oh, you're going to keep it completely authentic. I said, yeah, yeah, but only I'm not going to do fire gilding. I said, why not do fire gilding? And he said, oh God, you researchers stick too much to your books, huh? And I said, he said to me,
Oh, that's
I
funny.
don't want to die. If you want, you come and do it. I said, well, I don't know how to do these things. I do research, I do martial arts, and I do research. I'm not handy. I don't know how to do stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. Because I still want to live, and I'm certainly not going to do fire gilding. That's why you said it. It reminded me of this German jeweler, very
Oh yeah,
cheeky, very funny guy, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well, how
a
did they
lovely.
do fire gilding? Can you just explain it a bit for
Well,
us?
basically, what you did was you mixed gold and mercury and made a paste out of it, and then you put it over the silver where you wanted to gild it. Everything had to be super clean and everything. And then you heated it over a flame, and as the mercury evaporated, the gold stuck really firmly to the silver. Now, the problem was that the mercury evaporated, and that means it went into the air and you breathed it in. And mercury is incredibly toxic, and it's just a bad thing. Um, people, there's a story that if you had an apprentice, if you were a goldsmith or a silversmith and you had an apprentice and he wasn't really good, when the fire gilding part came up, you'd do the painting onto the design and then you'd give it to him to heat it up.
Oh God.
So that's before there were any kind of workplace safety law. It's only a story. I've never seen it verified, though it does sound pretty, the kind of crazy thing people used to do in the good old days.
Yes.
Oh dear. But yeah. Oh yeah, look at the pattern in the ivory.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
very walrusy.
Yeah.
People love walrus ivory. I mean, I don't think many people had any idea what a walrus was because I mean, yeah, the when the Vikings settled Greenland, um, one of their major exports was walrus ivory to Northern Europe because it was hard to get elephant ivory due to the fact that they didn't like the cold, and walruses were reasonably dangerous animals, but you could shoot them from a distance with a bow and arrow or throw a harpoon at them or something like that. Um, as they know recently, when a walrus came south for a holiday, they're very big and they can sink boats just by getting on them, as
Yeah.
did happen.
Yes, exactly.
Uh, but the ivory, I mean, the males have two huge tusks, which are apparently reasonably effective because they rear right up high, uh, and they're usually trying to defend themselves from things like polar bears. So when, several tons of walrus comes down with these two huge, really strong teeth, it can be a final experience for the polar bear. Not to say polar bears don't kill a lot of walruses, but walruses knock out a few polar bears. I think they also use them for digging crustaceans up on the bottom of the ocean when they go hunting. So they're a multi-purpose tool for the walrus, but they produce a beautiful ivory.
Do they
And
keep growing? Do they
yeah,
lose them?
I think it's like an elephant's tusks. As long as the animal keeps growing and is healthy, the tusks keep growing. I've
Oh,
seen a couple of them. Like I was in a shop once 40 years ago, and there was a massive walrus tusk, well and truly outside of my price range at the time because I wasn't earning as much as that cost in 6 months at the time. I mean, had it been a thumb ring, I did spend almost the very first thumb ring I ever bought. I think I spent 2 or 3 weeks salary on it because A, it was very rare to see them in Sydney, and B, it was a really nice one.
yeah.
I've never regretted that. Though I did have to borrow money off my parents to live for a week until I got my next paycheck. But
Yeah.
yeah, but walrus ivory, it's got a beautiful feel to it. Um, I I I don't know if I've got a walrus ivory thumb ring.
Mm,
Uh, I think it's Persian as well. Um, and
mm,
they've got the pattern. They feel just like elephant ivory.
mhm.
They're quite heavy, like elephant ivory is.
Yeah.
People that have never handled elephant ivory are shocked by how heavy it is.
It is
But
yes.
it's a tooth. I mean, if you probably the hardest part of the human body is the teeth,
Yeah,
and it's the
absolutely.
same with almost all animals, except for sharks. It's the teeth that are the hard part, and that hardness comes with density. I mean, the only
Yes.
thing I've ever picked up that was as dense as elephant ivory is someone brought back a carved piece of bone from a dugong from Northern Australia. The Aborigines up there
Yes.
are allowed to hunt them because it's their tradition. And she was given some little carvings, and this carving was as solid as a you. It was so heavy because their bones have to be really heavy because they have a lot of blubber and they wouldn't sink down to the bottom of the sea where they eat seagrasses and things like that if their bones were light. Like
Yes.
you and I, we have um, like a honeycomb inside the bones where blood cells are made and all this kind of stuff. But dugong's bones are just like solid all the way through, or the ones that I saw. Um, but uh, luckily they're protected, so that doesn't. I mean, as I say, traditional owners have the right to do it, but they don't exploit it. It's not done as a commercial thing. But yeah, it's hard to believe how heavy ivory is. Now, this is really interesting. So
Your
we've got,
crescent speed. Did you
yeah,
realize?
reversed. One way, then the other, then back the first way. And then they've got little bands that hold them onto the scabbard rather than being riveted to it or something like that. They have, so
Yes.
they're actually part of the structure to stop the scabbard from falling apart if the glue fails or something like
Yeah,
that.
exactly. So the
Beautifully.
wooden scabbard is covered with velvet, red velvet. And this one, Pete, take a look at that, has a different
Yeah,
way
entirely
of,
different way of doing it.
you see
Because
that?
that's completely covered.
Yes,
Well, it would be covered in metal, and then the metal is covered in turquoise. I
yes.
mean, I think you can see little bits of the metal poking out underneath the turquoise.
And
And
this
it's
one has
almost,
a ring. Do you see that, Pete?
yeah, yeah. See, that's more standard. Um, when I look at the two of them, look at the way the turquoises are put on. The lower one, the turquoises are almost like cloisonne,
Yeah,
like they're little cages of metal with the turquoise embedded into them.
yeah, yeah,
And I mean, it's all when they mention mastic in the description, they're talking about a plant glue to hold these together. So you heat up the glue and you stick the little pieces of turquoise to it, and but you can see where they've fallen off.
yeah. Here,
You
let me
can see
just
the
show
metal.
Pete. Here,
Yeah,
here, here.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, some of that, yeah, and see along the edge of the bottom of the scabbard, you can
yeah,
actually see the material underneath.
yeah. Oh, yeah, you do. Here, yeah,
Yeah,
here.
so this is really, I mean, it's it would be very painstaking to make this because each little piece you're probably picking up on a stick with a bit of wax on the end, and you're perfectly positioning. You heat it up, the wax melts, the mastic underneath glues it down. And think this is 150 years or 200 years old,
Yeah,
and most of them are still there.
yeah.
I mean, really,
Yeah.
it's impressive.
Beautiful. Let's just move down the scabbards. Look at this, please.
Yeah. See, these are. I'm just looking at the way those crescents are done. So I'm
Mm.
assuming on the back, this is a guess, they might be entirely different, that the ones that come off the tip of the scabbard must move in to come round and up closer together for the bottom of the crescent. Um, and I'd say that each crescent is an individual fitting with two bands that go
Yeah,
around the back of the scabbard.
yeah.
But it's a really brilliant design. I mean, we're talking about uh, somebody sitting down and designing this. This is really unique. I haven't seen anything done like this before. I mean, I've seen the type of workmanship, but I've never seen this design. And whoever came up with it was, quite brilliant.
I mean,
Because
as
it's
you
not.
know, Russian museums are treasure trove for Central Asian, Persian, and Caucasian and Ottoman arms and armor. They are really have
Oh
excellent
yeah,
pieces.
yeah. Well, it's such a long connection
Yes,
with all
absolutely,
those places.
absolutely, very beautiful.
Sometimes antagonistic, sometimes friendly, because there was a lot of trade. Um, but yeah, this is beautiful workmanship.
Look at this one.
Yeah, those little bulbs on the shapes of the swords.
Oh, this one. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of a mosque dome, like in a mosque. Look at
Well, yeah,
this.
in a way, what I think of, and I think it's more apparent on the other one, is these little fittings, you see them more curved on Turkish daggers, on the big
Yes.
present Turkish
Let me
dagger.
show it. Ah, where is it? Yeah, here, here,
Yeah.
here.
That's the kind of teardroppy one, and the other one is more the mosque dome one, but they're very closely related.
Yes.
It's a really nice look, and just that metal pin sticking out of the bottom is probably to stop it scraping. Because it'd be a real problem if you started wearing off the bottom of that. I mean, the whole
Beautiful.
purpose of chape is to protect the bottom of the scabbard, but when it becomes this elaborate, the chape itself is really valuable. You can see, yeah, you can see the turquoise set in the mastic.
Yes.
That's
Look
the
at
color.
this.
Yeah, see, that's beautifully done.
Yes. Yes. It can also be used to scratch your back.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that
Reminds
would.
me of those wooden hands. You've
Yeah,
seen.
yeah, yeah. I've got one. Yeah, it's just an amazing
Yeah.
concept. The person that designed this, did the Khan say, "Oh, I'd like one that was like this with this and this," or did he just say, "Make me one that looks really nice with lots of turquoise in it"? And
Yes.
who knows who makes the decisions?
Yes, exactly. So the next one, oh, sorry.
Oh,
See
there's the
here.
belt.
Yeah, this is the belt. It's quite that thick, isn't it, Bede? Like,
It's
look at
multiple
the.
layers.
Yeah.
It's multiple layers. So it's got the decorative top and bottom layer, and then it's got a strength layer underneath that was probably only loosely stitched to it, if stitched at all, because running through all those metal keepers will hold them all together.
Yeah.
And that gives you a belt that's very strong but soft. It's more flexible. So
Mm.
probably a comfortable belt. But it's just a really nice design. Those keepers are beautiful.
Yeah. And the other
And
one
then,
is in European style saber, very beautiful as well.
yeah, oh yeah, and that's Niello and inlay and
Beautiful.
the decoration is purely Central Asian,
Yes.
um, but beautifully done.
Mm. Really
Yeah,
beautiful.
it's that. I mean, the thing is that when they wanted to make a European style sword or mount a European style sword that they'd been given, um, the craftsmen applied their traditional aesthetic to it and then produced something that's really wholly new. And if this was just a plain European sword and a plain European scabbard, it wouldn't be very interesting.
Mm.
But the actual workmanship that's applied to the scabbard makes it stand out.
Mhm. Look at the handle. Also
Yeah.
nice, huh?
Yeah, they've taken a European style handle and remodeled it,
Yes.
redecorated it, and
Yes.
turned it into something perfectly Central Asian.
And look at
You see?
this. They put a stone here. Look at this. It's so
Yeah,
funny.
a big carnelian right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
I mean, the guard is probably not very functional, but then that stone may only go in about 2 millimeters. So,
Yeah.
but carnelian was very popular because it was a lucky stone.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And so was turquoise. I mean, both of these things are loaded with good luck for the owner. And then you've got Quranic inscriptions on top of that to make sure that God's looking after you. I mean, even though to us we look at it and say, oh, it's really beautiful and what great design, to the people wearing it, it probably had layers upon layers of meaning in terms of folklore and religion and just traditional things. Such and such always wore a turquoise mounted sword or something like that. But yeah, it's beautiful workmanship.
Beautiful. Really beautiful. Look. Oh God, we have a better picture now here.
Oh yeah. So look at the interlace on the knuckle guard. It's it's restrained, yet it's really beautifully executed. You would think this was made maybe 200 years earlier because of the high quality of the finish and the execution. But it's quite clearly, 19th century. It's been reworked in the 19th century. I mean, the blade may be a bit older, and it's been done entirely to the taste. I'm looking the way they've mounted the jewels on the handle.
Yeah.
They've got the metal surrounds are in a quite complicated shape. Then you've got jewels set in there, and I mean the one at the towards the pommel seems to be a large emerald or something like that.
Yes.
Then the next one looks like a rough cut diamond, and the next one looks like it's a diamond surrounded by emeralds. I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
it's this is all well if you can afford it. This is all good stuff.
It
Um,
is. Unbelievable.
Yeah,
Really
it's
unbelievable.
great. And even that on the ricasso of the blade, that gilding with the it might be enameling or it might be inlay. It might even be
Beat, do
niello.
you have access to your computer now? Can you
Yeah,
calculate something for me? Can you
yeah.
calculate what is 1311 Hijra in Gregorian?
Oh, okay. Wait a minute. Give me a second.
Mhm. Because I
Uh,
cannot access my computer now.
yeah. Okay. Let me go here to here. So what was it?
Okay,
1,000.
1311 in Hijra.
Okay. 1893.
Okay, that's what this is dated here.
Ah, right. Yeah, it's yeah, 1893. So the end of the 19th century.
Yes.
To think that they were still producing stuff of this quality
Yeah,
when
that's
they
what I'm
were.
so, unbelievable. And this is enamel, green enameling, correct? This work.
Oh, yeah, that's what it looks like to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that I think the knuckle guard, cross guard, pommel, and the grip are all enameled.
Oh, I can read his name now. Sorry, I need just to turn myself. Sharif. The maker's name is Sharif. And then it's
Ah,
dated 1311. Yes. I
wow.
cannot read this part because I need to turn it. Right? Maybe
Yeah,
I
yeah.
need to use AI to turn it. but, but this is said Sharif, right?
Well, you could just use AI to make up a name. Who knows?
Exactly.
But just think that this is the end of the 19th century in a country that I don't know when the Russians annexed Kokand. I think it was only a few decades earlier, and they're still producing work of this quality.
Yeah,
I mean, it's very impressive.
impressive, really impressive. So that I haven't, paid attention to this before, but now we are talking and it's big, large, so I could look at it. Very
Yeah.
beautiful, very
Mm.
beautiful. Oh, again, we have a picture of all of them here. Next, all three are magnificent, aren't they, Bede?
Oh yeah, and they all show how well the traditions were kept
Yeah.
because you're looking. I think I look. I don't know. I think the top two maybe what mid 19th century, something like that. Um, they could be earlier because I
Mhm.
mean that style goes back to the 1820s or something. But the actual way they've done the execution, the quality of design, and let's be honest, I mean they're talking about the top two being Shashkas. They're really, really big cards. I mean, Shaskas have a more pronounced. Oh, they're not very curved, but they've got a more pronounced curve, and they don't taper as much towards the end usually. I've seen one that was a little bit like this, but
And they certainly look like big cards.
yeah,
Certainly.
I mean you see them in miniatures going back to the what 1500s in Iran, where people are just wandering along and they've got this massive long knife hanging off a string off their belt. Uh, Not even they didn't even consider it important enough to make belt mounts for it. They just tied it on. Uh,
And they remind me of the late Sasanian sword grips in a way.
yes, yeah, those really they which often have that little indentation for the index finger,
Yes.
which I think is very sophisticated. It's interesting whether that type of sword hilt um, originated in this area, maybe back in the fifth or sixth century AD.
Yeah. Because they had these originally, as we know, we talked about it. We also wrote articles on that. Sasanian swords were cross guard in the earlier and mid Sasanian period.
Yeah,
Towards the end, then they started to
you start to see.
adopt that
Yeah,
style. Yeah.
it's really interesting, and the other thing that's really interesting is the other transition was between a sword slide mounting where the sword is worn vertically
Yeah.
and a 2-point suspension like the bottom sword where it's worn almost horizontally. Now, the middle one, that would hang like in the same position as a Sasanian sword, but not the same way,
Not
because
the
this
same way.
is
Like early and mid Sasanian sword, not late Sasanian sword, as you
yeah,
mentioned.
yeah, 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 yeah. So you've got this really kind of you've got to wonder whether there were traditions that were just kept on going in Central Asia, and they adapted them to different types of sword because they had this feeling. I think in Pianja Kent that some of the warriors are wearing a long bladed knife hanging vertically
Yeah.
and a sword across it
Yes.
hanging from two straps on the
Yes.
left-hand side. And sometimes you see them seated and they're parallel to each other, but that's because they've moved them to be comfortable.
Yes.
Uh, there may be a really long tradition of this.
Yes.
I mean, it's like people using a kama and a shamshir.
Yes.
You wear them both on the, well, you can wear the kama in front, but you can wear them both on the same side. You see it
Yes.
in photographs from the 19th century in the Caucasus.
Yes.
So
Yes.
this kind of, there's a continuum here, and maybe a deep historical continuum, or maybe it's just very practical. I mean, people reinvent things.
Okay, we move on.